Hi, this is Boat Life Balance with Captain Ned. Now, you'll have heard me talking about different things. So the question that I was caught up on was, I was making reference to buying a car versus buying a boat and the legalities of that. Now, I don't understand the full legalities of it. I understand quite a lot of the maritime system and the fact that on top of all maritime law, there is a simple clause and responsibility of the captain is absolute. Now, it's also in that it's become your absolute responsibility as a buyer, especially here in Australia, to make sure your vessel is fit for seagoing service, whether you're just heading out or you're actually buying it, right? So it's really 99.9%, if not 100% on you to make that assessment. Even if you've got independent advice and independent advocates, all that sort of stuff, it's still the end of the day, it's your money, it's your decision. It's your voyage, it's your decision. Yeah. So, however, when buying a car, there's a whole lot of checks and balances in there that more or less guarantee you're not buying a lemon off the car lot of a new car. Yeah. There's warranty and all that sort of stuff. But the fundamentals of the car are always there. There's a certain operating parameter for cars. Yeah, it's a SUV, it's a sedan, it's a light commercial, it's a light car, it's a Mini, it's a Jeep, it's a Toyota, it's a Fiat, it's a whatever. You've got this expectation of what you're getting. You're walking into what you're getting. Now, I sent a survey that was done here in Australia to colleagues in the US, and they thought I'd actually fabricated a hoax. I rang right. I said, "Did you see the report I sent you?" I said, "Oh, come on, mate. We didn't come down in a last shower, pal," kind of thing. It's like this. You can't pull the wool over our eyes. We know this is a hoax. I'm like, that is not a hoax. It took me a good 10 minutes for them to realise it was not a hoax, and they got really serious because they realised, because there's a lot of checks and balances in the US about safety, and in Europe about marine safety. There's a lot of checks and balances in Australia about marine safety in the commercial world. In the private market, in the buyer market in Australia, it's still a little bit Wild West. Okay, so they got really serious really quickly. This conversation I was having with these fellows, because they said if we submitted something like this as a pre-purchase inspection to someone who was buying a boat, whether it was, $80,000 or $8 million, we'd lose our jobs. And if anything went wrong, we'd get sued to the eyeballs and we could even do jail time. And then they started getting really annoyed when I started sending them photos of the boat that I worked on as a boating instructor, and the keel bolts that were just this big ball of rust you couldn't get a spanner onto, and all these other things. And the summation of this survey that was done here in Australia many years ago was this vessel appears to be in fair condition and well maintained considering its age. Now, there's two ways of fixing that boat. One way was to spend in excess of $150,000 after purchase to actually get it to be a safe vessel. The other way was 4 litres of petrol and a match. So the legalities of purchasing a vessel. And it basically comes to, is it insurable or not? Yeah, is it insurable? Is it safe for operation of sea? There are safety requirements and equipment you should carry and the areas of operation, all that sort of thing. But there's no actual seaworthy certificate, like there is a roadworthy certificate for registering a car. There are condition reports of the vessels that are found at a time. Now, you'll see boats just deteriorate to the point where nobody wants to buy them because they're that terrible, or they've just fallen out of the ability to be insured. Insurance companies here, now having some underwriters out of US and out of Europe, are now starting to set these checks and balances themselves. The industry is starting to catch up. People have died here, and there's people died in other parts of the world with boats and all that sort of thing. But coroner's findings have not necessarily been followed up until quite recently. This is starting to come into play, but it's actually more the underwriters and the insurance companies that are actually leading the charge in this space. Like, who is actually bringing your boat down the east coast of Australia? Do they actually have qualification to do so? You know, so it's happening that insurance companies want people to be registered on insurances. Now, that in the US is a pretty standard procedure, and in Europe, that's a pretty standard protocol. It's like, you can't take this boat out of here unless you've got an RYA this, or you can't take this boat out of here unless you've got a Coast Guard something this, or you have to have done this, right? Here in Victoria especially, it's you can take this boat if you've done a multi-choice questionnaire and we've given you a license with zero restriction on the size of boat you can have. Just blanket, right across the board, that's it. When questioning the restriction size, it might have been lack of knowledge of the person I was asking at the time, but she came back onto the phone after being away for 10 minutes and said, I'm not sure if it's 37 or 40 metres. You may need a pilot to bring it into Port Phillip Bay. So that's scary in itself. So the legalities in buying a boat are buyer beware. You have to actually know what you're looking at, and you have to be very aware of what you're looking at. You have to get that information, and you have to make sure that it's suitable for your area of operation. It's suitable for the conditions and the prevailing conditions. You have sufficient skills and crew to operate this vessel. Yeah. Don't put yourself at unnecessary risk, and don't just look at a boat and think, oh, it's all going to be okay, or I can get into it cheaper and then I'll go and buy a bigger one later. Spend the money on getting the boat you want. Put the energy, time and research into getting what you want. Make sure it's safe, and just give yourself the time to do it right, and really let go of that whole perception of buying a boat is like buying a car, and having a boat is like having a car. You need to sort of think about, if it's a marina-sized boat, you need to have at least $1,000 per foot per annum to keep it. And if you're not prepared to do that, my advice would be maybe charter. Yeah, if you're going to use the boat and you're going to get more than 28 days of usage out of it a year, then get a boat. But if you're going to get it, you know, like use it for 3 days in over 2 years' time, if it's not affecting you financially in any way, and you just go, yeah, well, I can afford to do that, and then afford to do that. But if you think about investing into something, you've got to understand that the onus, especially here, is on you to get it right. Yeah. So when you walk into a boat sales environment, don't walk in with the thought that you do in a car yard sometimes. Well, I'm just going to trade this one and drive out of here, and I'll get my finance pack or whatever I'm doing, or I'm just going to, you know, swap these cars out and all that. It's not that simple, especially if you're the kind of owner operator who's looking for your boat for life boat, not your boat for now boat. If you're looking for boat for now boats, then realize that every time you do the turnover, like in a car, you're going to take a hit, but in a boat, it's a bigger hit. Also, protect yourself. Find someone who understands maritime law better than I do as well, and look at all those aspects as well. So if you're going into much bigger boats, or if you're going into commercial vessels, you're going into that sort of stuff, you've got to double down on reading the paperwork and all that. I know it's a bit fun police stuff, isn't it? It's like, I just want to go and enjoy a boat and have fun and do all that. And yes, that's true, and it's all good, but it very rarely goes horribly wrong, but sometimes it has gone horribly wrong. And when it goes horribly wrong, it goes horribly, horribly wrong. So, you know, protect yourself, protect your enjoyment, protect your right to, you've got to fight for the right to party. You've got to fight for the right to enjoy your boat, and get all the checks and balances in place to make sure that's happening. And be aware that the final decision on if this boat is fit for sea-going service is yours and yours alone if you are holding the keys and you are standing at the helm. So everything you're standing on, beyond around you, from that helm position, has to not only fit sea-going service or area of operation, it also has to fit the local requirements legally for those waters. Okay, happy boating. Bye for now.